A lot of virtual teams get into trouble because people avoid giving feedback or having conflict with people that they don't sit in the same office as. I'll let you in on a little secret. Good, healthy conflict and feedback is even more important in virtual and remote teams. In this video, I'm going to show you how to prepare for and deliver feedback to somebody who you don't work face-to-face with. Hey everybody, it's Liane Davey from 3Cos. I help teams work through the people issues so that they can get back to business. If you're new here and looking for practical tips and techniques for building a high-performing team, make sure to subscribe and click on the bell so you don't miss a thing. I'm a big believer in working through conflicts right as they start so that you don't get into what I call conflict debt. Conflict debt stalls your team and creates all sorts of unnecessary friction in your relationships. So it's a really problematic issue. But it's even more of a problem on remote teams because we're not face-to-face with one another, and it's a lot harder to raise those issues. Today I'm going to give you the steps to prepare for, execute, and follow up on a great uncomfortable conversation with somebody who's in another office. Okay, it's definitely true. There are some challenges that make conflict much harder with a virtual team. So first of all, on a virtual team, you don't have those sort of casual, informal collisions at the photocopier or the coffee machine. And when you don't have those, it's a lot harder to kind of build a relationship, but it's also a lot harder to know if something's going off the rails. So that's certainly a challenge. Second, when you do have to confront or deal with an uncomfortable discussion, it's probably over video conferencing at best, and at worst, over email. Yee, we all know how bad email is for having uncomfortable conversations. So that does make it hard to have conflict well on Teams. One of the other big problems is it's really easy to put off conflict when you're on a virtual team, because if you're not bumping into somebody getting the stink eye all day or having to sit eye to eye across from them in a meeting room, well, it's a lot easier to just say, I'll deal with it later. You don't have the intensity of bumping into someone to encourage you to work it through. Finally, if you occasionally see people face-to-face, it might give you the excuse that you want to wait till you see them. So that means conflict on virtual teams can often be really not timely. It's really delayed from when things actually went wrong, which can cause them to balloon into a bigger deal than it really is. So it's true, there are a few things that make conflict on a virtual team a little bit more difficult. But that's no reason not to confront these issues head on. As soon as you get the sense that something is starting to bother you, that niggly feeling of, I didn't like how that went in that conference call, or, that person's emails are making me crazy. Whatever it is, that's the time to get on it. So maybe it's something where you don't like how they're approaching the work or a project, and if you let it go, it's possible that that misalignment could grow bigger and bigger. Or maybe it's something in your interpersonal relationship or how they're behaving that's driving you nuts. It's really important to address that. Otherwise, you're going to start seeing everything they do as annoying. Unfortunately, that's how our brains work. Once we've decided someone's annoying, we only pay attention to the annoying things we do. We even interpret things that are totally normal if anybody else had done it as, can you believe that? So it's really important that you get on top of the issue right away. So the first thing you need to do is to prepare what you're going to say. I've talked about some of the disadvantages of having conflict in a virtual team, but here's a big advantage. When conflict comes up on a team where you're all co-located, sometimes it just blows up out of nowhere. Maybe you're in a meeting room together and you finally had it, you roll your eyes and everybody sees it, and whew, before you know it, you're into a pitched battle. When that happens, you have no time to prepare, it gets really emotional, and it's quite likely that the whole thing goes down in a big hurry. The advantage of a conflict with a virtual teammate is you have time to think about it. What am I actually worried about? What's bugging me? I'm going to listen in a couple more conference calls and think about what are some of the examples I could provide so that when I share the issue with the person, I've got a lot more to go on. The other thing you can do is pause and ask for a couple other people's opinions. I really perceived, Frank as in that call, I thought he was way too focused on the finance perspective. How did you see it? So all those things are possible in a situation where you can have advance notice and prepare. So that's step one. Prepare for the conversation in advance. Make sure you've collected some evidence and got a little bit of perspective on it. Step two is that it's really important to give the other person a bit of a heads up that you want to have an uncomfortable conversation. I know that that's counterintuitive and a lot of people don't think about it that way. But if you're in an office with somebody and you're starting to get frustrated, there will be a lot of subtle cues that you're not so happy. Probably you're making a little bit less eye contact with them, or your body language is a little different. We even can tell how someone's feeling because their voice changes. When you smile, it turns out your voice, it lifts your soft palate and your voice feels differently. So people can pick up on if you're frustrated or angry with them. But if you're communicating by email, they're not going to understand that at all. So you just phoning them and starting to tell them everything they've done wrong is really going to come out of nowhere. And that's a bit of a gotcha scenario. Gotcha scenarios don't tend to lead to productive conflict. So if something's going wrong, it's really important to give them a heads up. Something simple, just an email that says, I'm worried about how our weekly priority setting is going. I've sent a meeting invite to have a real discussion about this. That's just enough that they actually have the chance then to say, how do I feel about the weekly prioritization process? How do I collect my own evidence? That's going to make it more of a dialogue, a place where the two of you are coming together to figure it out, versus if you don't give them the heads up, you've had all this time to prepare your wonderful, cogent arguments, and they're getting it head on. So it's really important in a virtual team conflict situation that you give a bit of a heads up so they can prepare as well. The third thing that's really important is to use the best communication technology you have available to you. So if your company is one that has that awesome holographic telepresence meeting room thing, awesome, book it, because the more body language you get, the better. If you don't have that yet, then if you use Skype, go for it. Skype is great to at least get some of the body language. And if all you have is the phone, then it's okay, but you're going to have to add a running commentary. So something like, sorry, I know I was quiet for a moment there. I noticed that I'm getting really frustrated and I'm trying to say this in a way that's fair. So the more of the body language you have, the more ability you have to show, look, I want to have this conversation productively. When you only have the phone, then it's really not a great situation, and you're going to have to add some of that information in with a running dialogue. It's like subtitles for a healthy fight. And if all you've got is email, wait. If somebody's traveling or in the car or in a place where you can only use email with them, that's not a good place to have conflict or to deliver uncomfortable feedback. Really, it's not worth it. So number 4, have a cheat sheet. Do yourself a favor. Again, here's another huge advantage of conflict over the computer. You can have a cheat sheet in front of you. Do whatever works for you. If you just need a big sign that just says, breathe, sure, use that. Or if you want to have the 4 points that it's really important that you address, or maybe you've worked really hard to come up with a way of making your feedback really objective and taken out all the drama and the judgment, great, put the actual wording there so you can glance down at it. The other huge advantage of video conferencing technology is you can actually see your own face. It's great when out of your peripheral vision you have, great is probably an overstatement, but it's very useful when your peripheral vision catches that thing and your face is like, I am not looking open to hearing their point of view. So it's another big advantage. When we're meeting in a meeting room, we often don't have those reflective surfaces to give us the clue that, I'm looking a little aggressive. On video conference, we have it right there. That window is very, very useful. So no matter what, use the best communication technology you have, and then use cheat sheets, use tools, make it a little easier on yourself. Step 5. Work through the discussion, whether it's feedback or you want to disagree with them about something. And that's the part that actually is exactly the same, regardless of whether you're face-to-face or over a telephone line 3,000 miles away. Doesn't matter. But there are some rules for how to do that really, really well. So in the description below, you'll see I've given you a few links to help you give really great feedback or to position that uncomfortable conversation well. Okay, so the sixth step, really important, is to actually follow up. When you're in the same office as somebody, you get all those ways of finding out, is this working? Are we getting better? So eventually eye contact will start to return. So when you're in a fight with someone, it's very common that you'll lose eye contact with one another. You'll pass without looking, or in a meeting, you'll keep all your eye contact for other people. So as things start to get better, you can judge that based on, oh, we're actually looking at each other now. Well, okay, getting better. Maybe you also start to force a smile as you walk by. So whatever it is, when you're in an office, you start to get that real-time feedback that, okay, we're going in the right direction. You don't get that when you're with a remote teammate. So you have to bring it in. So you can certainly schedule official follow-ups, that's really important, but there's also informal chances. So when you do these follow-ups, particularly if it's been uncomfortable, I encourage you to keep it really short and sweet. So at the end of the actual call, when you decide on, okay, here's the 3 things we're going to work on, you want to have a really quick, even maybe a one-word thing to describe it. Then what you can do is have an email that's something as simple as the first word, planning, and an emoji or something, the thumbs up. But follow up, you may do thumbs down or sad face, or if it's really not made any progress, you might do that crying emoji. So it's much better in conflict to have very, very quick follow-ups to say, hey, we're on the right track here, or okay, this one needs more work. So those little emails can be really useful. But it's just as important for your follow-up to be about the relationship stuff. So if you're in the office and you've just had a big fight with somebody, maybe a couple days later you're finally like, hey, how about that weather? And that's the way that you signal, like, we're trying to go back to normal. So you need that, hey, how about the weather example for your remote team worker. So maybe that's, sending a clipping or an interesting article, or maybe it's your favorite cat video from YouTube. But whatever it is, you need a few of those informal things that say, I think we're on the right track here. So that's step 6. Make sure that you find places to close the loop, because it's not as easy in a virtual team. You don't know, did we actually do what we said we were going to do? Is it working? Are things getting better? The final step is to make sure that you are then building the relationship before another conflict arises. Unfortunately, we tend to work on this no news is good news line, and that is the worst rule to follow when it comes to virtual teams. Because if no news is good news, then it means the only time you're hearing from your teammate is when they're mad at you or some shit has hit the fan. That's not what we want. Suddenly they see your number on the call display, they're like, I think I have to go. So it's really important that you start to shift the balance. So there's more and more and more conversations you're having that are about positive, constructive, forward-looking things, and fewer that are about things that have gone wrong. And so then when something does go wrong, because you've invested in the relationship, it's okay. You give each other the benefit of the doubt. So here's the question of the day. What conflict do you need to work through with a remote teammate to make things better in your relationship? Okay, that's it for today. So a few things. If you have questions or comments, put them in the comments section below. And if you haven't done it yet, make sure to click subscribe and click the bell so that you can get the latest tips and techniques for how to build a high-performance team. I'm wishing you huge luck in having that difficult conversation with your remote teammate. And until then, have a great day.